So, you're striving to change behavior in your workplace, organization, or culture, and you're having a challenging time with it. But why? Why is it so difficult to change and sustain behavior, especially in the workplace? Well, having worked with dozens of companies in the Fortune 100 striving to change behavior across the organization, I've got a few thoughts on this, and I'm sharing them with you right now. By the end of this video, you're not only going to have a better understanding of how habits are formed, gleaning from the expertise of a New York Times bestselling author, but you'll be able to explain 3 of the common pitfalls that increase the difficulty of sustaining behavior change in the workplace. Lack of understanding existing cues and rewards, underestimating the power of belief, and inconsistent cues, rewards, and consequences. So let's start with talking about the nature of behavior change. One of the best books that I've read in the past decade is called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. In it, he establishes that 40% of the actions that we take every day aren't actually decisions, they're habits. He then goes on to present the habit loop, or the process that happens within our brains when we're engaged in an action that we do often, or a habit. And I'm going to paraphrase here, but it's a 3-step loop. First, there's some type of a cue or a signal that tells your brain to go into automatic mode and what habit to actually begin employing. Then there's the routine, which can be physical, mental, or emotional. Finally, there is a reward, which tells your brain if this behavior is something worth remembering again for the future. You getting value from this? Curiosity piqued? Please subscribe, like, notification bell. I drop videos like this on a daily. And to make sure you get the latest in your inbox, that you get notified, make sure you click subscribe. I want to make sure you have the value to help you grow through your change challenges. All right, let's get back into it. And then over time, this loop is practiced over and over again. In our workplace, when we're striving to change our culture or the behaviors that our employees are doing on a consistent basis, we're striving to inspire habit change. Or said another way, rewiring that internal process, resting in the minds of the individuals that comprise our organization, effectively replacing one routine with another. And without an understanding of how to do that, behavior change may happen, but it will be fleeting. You might see some little sparks of changes taking hold, but usually there's a bit of a regression because the behavior change just won't stick. But don't get down about that, because this is actually a difficult thing you're trying to do. It's really difficult to change these loops in a way that they remain and are sustained. But now that you have that understanding, let's dive into 3 common missteps that people make when they're striving to inspire that behavior change or the rewiring of those well-worn paths. The first pitfall is a lack of understanding of the existing cues and rewards within that habit loop. There's a gentleman named Nathan Asrin, who's one of the developers of habit reversal training. And he states that once you can understand the nature of the habit loop, including the cues and the rewards that are within it, you're halfway to changing that behavior. So the first step in changing that behavior is understanding the dynamics within it, notably those cues and rewards. Once those cues and rewards are understood, you should maintain them as you insert a new behavior or routine within that habit loop. So let me just throw out an example on this one. Let's say that you're striving to nurture a culture of gratitude and appreciation. The current state, the cue, is an individual feels an experience of appreciation for another. Something happens and they feel in their heart, gosh, I really appreciate that person. Now, their current routine is really the dealer's choice, right? Maybe that person sends an email, maybe that person offers verbal gratitude, maybe that person does nothing and kind of just sits silent and just rests in that appreciation. And then the existing reward is that somehow appreciation is reciprocated, right? Either that individual thanks them for sharing the appreciation, or somehow the appreciation is spread throughout the organization. Now, in order to change the habit, maintain the existing cues, that feeling of appreciation, and then spreading appreciation throughout the organization, all you need to do is insert a different behavior. Let's say you want to implement a thank you card system where there are certain cards that can either be downloaded online, maybe they're just physically around the office, and the routine is for that individual to get one of those thank you cards, write out exactly the appreciation, why they're being appreciated, and then give it to that individual. You see, you're maintaining the same cues, you're simply changing the routine. And so that's really important to understand as you're looking to nurture that culture of appreciation and gratitude. Cues and rewards are maintained. The routine has changed and become much more specific moving forward. The second pitfall is underestimating the power of belief. You know, so often when we're looking to nurture and inspire change in behavior within an organization, we fail to mention or really underestimate the importance of inspiring belief, nurturing the belief that's going to fuel, that's going to motivate that person forward throughout their routine. So, pulling from the prior example that I just shared about appreciation, the belief that you're striving to nurture there is that appreciation, when employees feel appreciated, they're going to feel more fulfilled in their work and they're going to be more engaged. When you can nurture that belief throughout the organization, they're, still going to have the cue of having that sense of appreciation, but it's going to be rooted in the belief, ooh, when I use this thank you card, when I share appreciation, I know that individual is going to feel more engaged. They're going to feel more fulfilled in their work. When you can nurture that seed of belief, it can help fuel those routines and create those pathways so that they become a lot more well-worn. The third and final pitfall is inconsistent incentives, rewards, and consequences. Remember, the third step of that habit loop is the reward, right? And without the presence of the reward, then the brain is not going to know that the loop has been closed and then remember that this is a behavior that I need to continue to do. And the other reason that I mentioned incentive and consequence is because they can be great motivators in allowing those habit loops to flow, those routines, those behaviors to be consistently made. So when we can incentivize our employees to do those behaviors above and beyond the cues, then there can be more motivation to actually engage in the behavior change or in that habit loop. And then there's also the power of consequence, right? When that behavior is not being done, when those thank you cards are not being used, then what is the consequence of that, right? Are you tying in a count of using thank you cards to actually performance reviews? And if you aren't meeting a certain target, then you're off track and maybe there's some other type of repercussion. These are different levers that we can pull in order to really institute these habit loops, to really institute the behavior change. But they have to be consistent so that the brain can remember, yo, this is my incentive, this is my cue, I'm doing the routine and I know a reward is coming. You have to have that consistency to reinforce the loop and ensure employees are engaging in them on a consistent basis. Before you go, I got something else for you for free, okay? I actually want to gift you a free chapter of my best-selling book, Change Enthusiasm: How to Harness the Power of Emotion for Leadership and Success. And I specifically want to gift you the introductory chapter to this growth mindset, a mindset I'm now able to share with leaders all over the world across dozens of industries. So as you think about growing through change, as you think about those difficult emotions that are inspired when going through change, this is the mindset that's going to help you harness the power of that energy, that emotion to fuel your growth. And it's yours today for free. All you got to do is click on the link below in the show notes. I want to make sure that you have the data, the insights, the research to fuel your growth through even your greatest change challenges, including behavior change across your organization. I'm Cassandra Worthy, and until we meet again, keep growing and keep rocking.